Hi, welcome to episode 3 of NSKN Games Small Talk. I'm Kuba.
And I'm Wesley.
And we'll start off with the news. Okay, the news. So, first of all, we're finishing developing all the Scarlet, our small game from Strawberry Studio line, all the files for the print house. And we're gonna send them to the print house quite soon, and that means that you'll get the game in April, May, something like that, right?
Yeah, around that.
And when talking about Strawberry Studio, then we have yet another game coming, which is
Little Monster.
Little Monster.
Little Monster that came for lunch and stayed for tea.
Yes, and it's a racing game, isn't it?
It is a racing game, and a game where you get to be one of the titular monsters. So basically it's a race, but it's not a race against time, it's a race against your own stomach. Because everyone gets a monster card, you become a monster that wants to be the first person, the first monster person,
the first mon person.
Mon person. Well, the first to fill up their belly, and you do that by playing different types of cards. You do that by playing cards that are actually food, and the food allows you to move around the table. If you get to the end of the table first, then it means that your belly is full, and well, actually the truth is that usually you will have two monsters. So if you get with both of them to the end of the table before anyone else manages to do that, then, you're just drinking tea and leaving.
Yeah, and as usual, there will be some great illustrations in the game, because Strawberry Studio, we take pride in the fact that we make those games really, really neat and nice when it comes to the visual aspect. So look forward to that, because it's going to be another cool game from Strawberry Studio. Now, bigger games, Dice Settlers. We told you about Dice Settlers in episode 2. And we're still working on art regarding that, right?
Yes, but we're also working on another very, very important aspect of the game, which is the dice.
Oh yeah, because there's gonna be how many dice in the box? 60?
Oh, there's going to be a load of dice, and what we want the dice to be cool.
And they're gonna be custom dice.
Exactly. So we are looking into different options, both etching and printing, so that the dice are something you like to hold and roll, because you're going to do a lot of that. Put them into the bag, build the bag, take some out, roll them, look at the icons. So we have a few options lined up, and we are right now looking into what sort of dice do we want. But you can be sure of one thing: they're going to be cool.
Yeah, and Dice Settlers is coming to Kickstarter in probably late February, maybe early March. So you will have plenty of time to have a look at the dice, and hopefully, you'll like them. And we're also working on a manual for Dice Settlers. So I really hope that we'll be able to show the manual, the rules, to you, somewhere along the Kickstarter line, right?
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, you'll see a lot of things about Dice Settlers when we're closer to this, because it is really something. We love the game. We can't wait until it gets to Kickstarter.
Yeah, the game has already its profile on BGG, on Board Game Geek, so if you subscribe to the game's profile, you'll be able to keep up with everything cool and new that we're gonna post there, right?
Yes, of course, and if you have some questions, you can post them there, for example, and I think we will be able to answer them.
Yeah. And next thing is Paladin card protectors. The campaign is still on. Thank you so much for so much support from you.
Oh yeah.
This is, I mean, beyond expectations. You guys are great.
It is amazing, and thank you so much. We are now left with 10 days. The moment this publishes, we're left with 10 days of the campaign, so there is still... we've done so much. I mean, with your help, we've done so much in the campaign, and there is still more to do. Now, one thing, when you get to the campaign, we already have... we started with 17 different types of sleeves, and we're getting more and more. So when you come in, take a look at the updates. A lot of very useful information can be found there, especially some of the big games that require a lot of sleeves. We created a few different guides on how to get the sleeves you need, and the fun thing about Paladin is that for most of the games, we do have them. So, you know, if you want some quality card protection, our new Kickstarter is definitely something to check out.
Absolutely. And you can also sleeve your Imperial Assault with it, don't you?
Oh yes. Actually,
and he probably will, because he's like the biggest fan.
Yeah, I do.
Do you have everything they published for it?
Yes. I have every single
thing.
How
many expansions are there?
Oh, I couldn't really count. I mean, you know, there is the base game, there are the big box expansions, there are the smaller box expansions, and then...
And now, which is the news, is a...
Yeah, they came out with the app.
And you can't stop playing it, can you?
Well, I have to, because sometimes I have to do some work and other real-life related stuff, but the app has come out. Now, for those of you who are also fans of Descent, you probably know more or less how the app will work, because this is, I wouldn't want to say a clone, but it's very similar in many aspects to the one from Descent. For better or for worse, I mean, I really enjoy Descent with the app, and now I really enjoy Imperial Assault with the app. It creates a story, it allows you to play cooperatively, which is nice because, you know, you can all be heroes, and with The Last Jedi coming up in a few days, I feel so well prepared to see the movie, you know, and then continue playing afterwards.
Yeah, we're going to see the, like, you know, pre-release premiere. We're going together to the cinema because we just couldn't help ourselves. Okay, and the last thing is that on the 1st of December, the UK Games Expo 2017 ticket sales started.
2018.
18.
Next year.
2018, absolutely. I mean, I hope they're not selling the 2017 tickets.
Well, I think that would be an interesting business model.
So the UK Games Expo takes place in Birmingham, in UK, and it takes place from the 1st to 3rd of June. And we're gonna be there, so if you haven't bought your tickets yet, buy them now. They'll be cheaper probably if you buy them in the, like, you know,
probably yes.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the news. The tickets are out now for sale, so you can buy them and you can meet us in UK Games Expo. We will have quite a large booth, sharing it with our friends from Anachrony Games, Board&Dice, and R&P.
Yes.
Which is the you know, cool tables company, and we'll see you in Birmingham, right?
Oh yes, definitely.
And now we're gonna move to Talk of the Week.
Talk of the Week.
Today's Talk of the Week is the prototypes, because we, as a publishing house, we get quite a lot of them. And we always thoroughly look through them, and we just wanted to tell you how this process looks like, and in case you're interested in setting your own prototype, how to approach this. But first of all, well, that's, you know, for example, this is a prototype of a game that came here, you know, looking, you know, just home printed cards and manual, and that might be a pearl inside, and you never know that before you play it. The thing is that it starts looking like this and ends up looking like one of these boxes here, and so when you see a prototype, or when you make a prototype, you don't have to make all those beautiful arts and graphics and everything, because in the publishing house, people who will play it will first look at the mechanisms, and do they work, and how they work, are they innovative, is there anything new? They just, you know, let you try something refreshing, and so on, right?
Yes. I mean, the important thing to remember about prototypes is that they need to be easily accessible, in the sense that, you know, when you're sending a physical prototype, it's good to make sure that it's easily playable, that everything is depicted on it. If you create rules for the prototype and you have different elements in the game, please make sure that we will be able to find out what is what and so on, because sometimes a prototype comes with a lot of elements. What we have here on the table are prototypes of smaller games, but sometimes we also get prototypes of bigger games, so it's not as important to see artwork. It is important to be able to play the game without a problem.
Oh, and it's important to include everything that needs to be in the prototype, because if you send us a prototype saying, well, I've sent you the deck of cards, now take 2 d6s and 4 meeples, and if you could just print out this board, and there is also, you will need some VP tokens, then we're like, well, no.
Well, okay, the meeples and the 2 d6 is actually okay, that's something that we can provide, but indeed, sending in a lot of stuff to print is sometimes will just make you wait longer until we get to your prototype. And if you're sending something to print, because especially micro games, we do often take submissions that are actual digital prototypes, and we simply print out the 30 or 40 cards the game comes with to play with it. When you do that, it's always nice to have a prototype that will not basically deplete the toner in our printer.
Yeah, if you prepare the game size of Star Wars Rebellion or Talisman or something like that, and you expect us to print it all, we will not.
Well, maybe we will, but
I will not.
We will wait. You will wait for a very, very long time until we get to that, because honestly, something that is already made into a prototype, which we can just
put it on the table and play just after we videotape this show.
Yeah, so that's probably going to get played first, even if it comes later, because of the ease of access.
And how we process with the prototypes is usually Błażej takes care of taking all the games in the house, so he's our first firewall, and he reads through the rules, he looks at the games, he talks to the designers, and he's the first one who says, well, we should just, have a peek because it might be interesting, or he's the one who politely says, thank you, but no. You do that politely, don't you?
I try to. Yes, I am always polite.
You're not.
Not to you, but
okay.
Yes.
That is true. So, and then we get a bunch of them, and we go somewhere for a weekend, where we spend the whole Saturday or Sunday or sometimes both playing just the prototypes one after another, and deciding if we want to develop them, or we decide that they do not fit our publishing line. Sometimes somebody sends us a prototype that we believe is a really good game, but we can't really see how it would fit our games. We just contact the designer with some other publisher that we believe that they might work together.
They might work together. The important element of going to a retreat and playing prototypes, and the truth is we're not only playing prototypes, usually we play prototypes for like a day or two and then actually play some games because we like playing games. But when we do that, the idea is that we want to see games in action, and one of the things that's sometimes very difficult to quantify when it comes to a prototype, because you look at the rules, you look at the elements, sometimes you will have expectations, sometimes you will expect the game to work great, sometimes you will look at it and say, this will probably not work, but let's put it on the table. Why do we do that? Well, mostly because we want to see the actual fun factor of the game. Sometimes it's something that's not immediately apparent from the rules or the elements or the ideas, and the game turns out to be a lot of fun to play, and that's something we will want to publish. And that specifically works for the smaller games, the Strawberry Studio games. Quite often it turns out that something that is, indeed very small and looks like a very simple game that will be with, for example, little to no decisions to make. It turns out that
it's quite deep.
Yeah, the game is fantastic, and the experience itself is amazing, and that's something.
The game is great for what it wants to do, and it does it perfectly, right?
Yeah, exactly. But again, that's why we do this, because we usually go to the retreat with our families, so that we have different gamers being able to play the games we think might be right, and we just want to see what happens when the rubber meets the road.
Absolutely. So there are a couple of things that you should really remember if you want to send a prototype to a publisher. First, the rules. They need to be read by somebody else than only the author of the rules, because only the other person can tell you guys who write the rules if it's actually understandable. You've been working with the game for such a long time that you understand some things by default. Some people might not, so it is important to give your rules to somebody else before sending them out, and it's very important to keep them tight and clean and clear and understandable, right?
Yes, of course. Giving your rules to just one person who had not played the game before sometimes will allow you to dodge a real bullet because there was something you forgot to add, like, you know, one sentence disappeared and that sentence is the last sentence of the setup, so everybody will be playing the game wrong, or, you know, you need to start the game with a number of cards and you won't know how many cards you need to start with, or...
Just imagine that you have Carcassonne, for example, and you write rules for Carcassonne, and it is obvious that you take the tiles blind out of a bag or out of some kind of box, but if you forget to write it, people might actually just put all the tiles plain and open and let you choose a tile before you place it. That's kind of thing you might forget while you're writing the rules. Definitely. And it might change the game or make it not understandable, really.
Now, one important thing to maybe wrap up the rules and the cards thing. On the other hand, don't be scared. I mean, especially if this is your first game, if this is the first time you're sending the game in, don't be scared of just sending it. I mean, we're talking so much about what you need to do and what you shouldn't do, but in the end, if you can just provide a prototype that is clean and understandable, and it doesn't have to look great, because what you see here, all in those bags, these are prototypes, and what we need from them is just, you know, to be able to play them. If you can do that, they don't have to be full color, they don't have to have art, they don't have to, your rules don't have to be impeccable. That's the other side of the same coin. It's okay for it to look nothing like the final game. The only thing which is important is so that we are able to actually play them.
Yeah, so the rules. Second thing, prepare the elements as we told you. Either send us a small print and play file, or if the game is a bit bigger, then make it, you know, on your own, the prototype. I understand that printing, cutting and gluing and sleeving is just one of the steps on the designer's path.
Probably is.
Yeah. If you can, prepare a printout prototype and sleeve it. If it's a small card game, that's perfect. Third thing is, we would more than like if you send us a brief description of the game. And by brief, I mean 1/3 of a page or even less. Couple of sentences saying, this is, you know, if you're sending, if I were a designer of Carcassonne and I wanted to send a prototype of it to a publisher, I would say it's a tile laying game about building a city when you can score points in different ways, and it plays in about 30 minutes from 2 to 5 players, and it's a medium light game that could be a great entry game, and that's it.
You really like Carcassonne, don't you?
No, I mean that if I wanted to, you know, sell it to the publisher, that's what I would say.
Yeah. It all boils down to what is known as the elevator pitch. Mm-hmm. So basically, you put that on paper, or actually put that on your computer, type that up and send. That's an important thing, because this is the first contact with the game. If you can, and that's another thing, especially if you're making a small game, if you can easily, clearly and simply explain what the game is about, this will be an asset for pretty much any publisher, and it will also be a possible future asset for anyone who would be interested to buy the game, because it's good to say, okay, this game is this, and you're going to like it because of that. That's usually what you want to aim for. 3 bullet
points that make this game cool, fun, stand out, that will make people of certain taste like it, and so on and so on, right?
Yes.
The fourth thing is communication. If you send us a game and we do not reply in the first 24 hours, it might mean that everything's okay. If we don't reply in the first 72 hours, it's still okay. So basically, we process prototypes in a matter of 3 months, probably.
Usually, yes. It takes some time to process the prototypes. Often because we get the smaller ones in print and play format, which means that we usually kind of lump them up into one bigger batch before we play them.
We will write back to you after we play it. If we decide to publish it, or if we decide against it, either way we will write back to you and we'll tell you, hey, we've played the game, we love it, we're gonna publish it, or hey, we played the game, we're sorry, but we will not publish it, and that's it. So no worries, we will. And also, on the other hand, if we ask you some questions, please do reply.
Oh yes, that's important. Sometimes we will have sometimes very basic but very important questions about the game itself.
Yes, and I think that's pretty much it that we wanted to tell you. We want to tell you that you know, among these bags with cards.
Yes, among these bags with cards, there is already something that we will be publishing. And just to wrap this up on that topic, the last thing you need to remember is to be patient altogether. I mean, usually most of the publishing houses, us included, have publishing plans that go into the near and sometimes a bit further future, so there is a bit of a waiting period before we actually play the game, and then after it gets picked up, and that works pretty much with everyone. You will have to wait some time until it gets through the whole process of being published, which is it needs to be scheduled, and it's usually in a year or so, and somewhere in between.
A year is the minimum time.
Oh yes.
Our publishing process takes 54 weeks. From the moment we sign the contract, the minimum time is 54 weeks. But we are already stocked up with some games that we're publishing. So it means that we are now taking games that we're gonna publish in late 2019. And in a couple of months, we'll start planning for 2020. So when we agree to publish, when we want to publish your game, you will also have to come and, you know, I mean, you will also have to talk about contract details and publishing time and everything. But well, I think that, you know, working with a designer of a game can be another topic.
Yeah, I think so. I think we can come back to that in...
One more tiny thing. If you come to conventions where we are, come there, show us the game, play the game with us if it's like a 15-minute game. If it's a 3-hour game, we might not have time for that.
No, probably.
But this is a great way to pitch your games. So write to us if you know that you're coming to a convention we are coming to. Set up a meeting with us, and probably Błażej will meet you there.
Yeah. You know, cold approaches rarely work. That's another important thing. Try to you know, get in touch before. And because usually if you just pop up at a convention, if it's a busy convention like for example Essen, chances are minimal that we will have the opportunity to actually, you know, well, we will probably find the time to talk to you for a moment, but we probably won't find a moment to sit down and play the game. So, you know, getting in touch beforehand is always a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that this is about it when it comes to Talk of the Week, and we're gonna move now to the great games we've played. Great games we played, which is a part of our vlog when we talk about the great games we played.
Yes.
Yeah. So actually I played quite a lot lately, but if I were to pick 3, then I would definitely start with Reworld, which is game that looks like it doesn't impress you with its art, although I really like how it looks because I'm a Eurogamer and I don't like to be overwhelmed with what I see on the board. And
that's a nice way to put it.
Yes. And well, the game tells you a story about colonizing a planet. You fly there with a big mothership, and we all try to unload bits and pieces of our future colonies, future like cities that we're gonna, you know, set on the planet. And the game is divided into 2 halves. First half takes 5 rounds when we're unloading stuff and putting it on our like smaller colonizing ship.
Yep.
And then the other half of the game makes you take all of these parts that you've taken to the other side, to the planet itself. The game is really hard because you have to plan very carefully every single step you make, and because when you load those parts to your ship, you will have to put them in some order, and then when you try to unload them to the planet, you will unload them in the reverse order.
Basically the first thing that comes in and will be the last thing that comes out.
Yes. But there is also a matter of a race in the game. You're trying to achieve goals before anybody else does. There's a matter of proper planning. It's a really hard Euro, and it speaks to me on a very, very deep level. I love it. I can feel the theme in the game. I feel like, you know, I was on board of Battlestar Galactica and that found the new planet they want to colonize, and whoa, it blows your mind, as in you really can feel your brains boiling, and I'm absolutely in love with it. It's one of the best games I've played from Essen Spiel this year, and I totally recommend it to every hardcore Eurogamer, because although some people say, like Błażej, that it feels a bit more like work than fun, for me, this work is pure fun.
Don't get me wrong, I really appreciate the design of the game, but it's just not my type of game. However, speaking about Essen Spiel, the same booth also sold a game called Heaven and Ale, and that's one of my great games I've played recently. It's also a game that basically twists your mind in a knot, because theoretically it's about making beer, but practically it's very abstract, and what you do in the game, when you look at it, you take a first look at it, it looks a little bit like, you know, maybe like Castles of Burgundy, because you have a board which is filled with hexes, and then you fill those hexes with hex-shaped tokens, and those tokens have different resources. But what the game is actually about is throughout the game you will be placing those tokens on the board, trying to close off sheds, which then will allow you to activate those tokens. And whenever you activate a token, depending on where you placed it, that resource token will either allow you to get more money, or it will allow you so that you can buy more tokens, or it will allow you to actually move the marker of that token up on a track, and that track is the way you win the game. You want to have your resources as high as possible, because that's one of the bases of your score, and you also have a Brewmaster mini which goes up the same track, and basically it creates, you look at the end of the game, you look at the position of the Brewmaster, you look at the position of your resource tokens, and right at the end of the game you will move those tokens a little bit to make them closer to each other, and the one that is lowest, that position will be multiplied by the position of your Brewmaster. It sounds complicated, and in the sense it is, not because it's something that's difficult to explain, because when you have the board set up it pretty much falls into place, but it's not a Euro game where you create resources to make them into other resources. It's more of a bit of a puzzle where to put stuff that you move them as high as possible so that you get the biggest multiplier at the end. It's very different from most Euro games, and it's really, really interesting, and to me, again, that is one of the best games of Essen Spiel this year.
Well, speaking of Spiel and Castles of Burgundy, there is yet another game that resembles it a bit, and it's Pulsar 2489? 2849? 2489?
2048?
2489? I think.
Oh god.
Pulsar. From the Czech Games editions by Vladimir Suchy, and one of my favorite designers. He did Shipyard, he did Prodigals Club, and wow, the game is big, and I mean big on all levels. I mean, it takes so much space on your table, and it's also big when it comes to playing it, because there are so many decisions. The game looks a bit weird in the sense that when I saw it on a table in Essen, it looked like, you know, yet another Ameri space exploration kind of game, because you've got like a board that looks like a galaxy, and yet it appears to be a very, very, very solid Euro with some innovative mechanisms, like you're setting a mediane at some point of your turn, and that's weird. That sounds.
It is, and it's something that you can probably scare off most of the players right at the start, because you're saying, okay, so we're gonna now establish a median for this, and it's like, what are we going to do? Well, we're gonna roll some dice and see which one falls in the middle.
Yeah.
But again, if you start, it looks very, very complex.
But the game allows you so many different strategies and paths to follow, and it's really big. It's one of those games that you play you lose badly or you make some mistakes and you immediately want to play again after taking some painkillers because it might hurt your head a bit.
Yeah, the game didn't make my list for a very simple reason. I have not played it recently, which is within the last week. I've played it, I did play it shortly after Essen, and it is pretty amazing. And you know, the thing that it's again a Euro game that works quite differently from other Euro games, and the thing is that it changes every time you play, because you have technologies you can patent during the game.
You have common goals.
You have common goals. Now the map stays pretty much the same.
Yeah, but still you roll the dice and then place them like workers, and every time you roll differently.
But you also get different technology tiles. So every time you play, even if you see the same technologies, probably the other sets will be different, because you build technologies out of, I think, 3 sections, and you get multiple of those sections in the box, and they're all double-sided.
And so there are those goals that can be different for every game. And well, it's just highly replayable and really fun.
It is. And speaking of sprawling games, I played Anachrony.
Oh, the big one with
the big one
with those magnificent miniatures.
Yes, although those miniatures don't come in the base box, so I'm gonna come back to them like at the end of this. But Anachrony is a big game. It's a big box. It really is a sprawling one. It takes a lot of space on your table, and honestly, the first time I see a game that has so many elements and that takes so much space, I always think, okay, maybe this could have been smaller. Maybe you could, you know, cut down on some elements. Maybe you can make something smaller so that you can fit it on an actual table. Well, I must say that with Anachrony, I would have a problem pinpointing immediately to what could be made smaller, what could be made more slick. The game has a lot going on. The main idea is that you will be traveling in time, and somewhere in the middle, or actually somewhere in the 2/3 of the game, there's going to be a cataclysm that will start ending the game for you. And one of the most interesting ideas is that you get to borrow resources from your future self.
Alright.
I mean,
so I say like, Kuba, could you lend me some resources? Yes, Kuba, I could.
Yeah, a little bit like that. The thing is, in a way, it is basically the mechanism of taking loans from other games, and instead of just paying them at the end of the game, all of them, you put them in different places of the time track. But in Anachrony, the time track is variable, so it looks, sometimes you put them in different places, and the more of those you have, the closer you are to creating singularities, which...
Like time paradox?
Yeah, paradoxes, which are in the game buildings, but everyone gets their own board. On your own board you get to build buildings, which usually help you, but if you do too much of the wibbly wobbly timey wimey, you start getting buildings which are actually which take up valuable space for buildings, which will give you negative points at the end. And if you want to get rid of them, you not only have to expend resources, but you also have to send a worker to that building, and that worker will probably die getting rid of the paradox.
Okay, what about those miniatures? I mean, I don't think you can call them miniatures, they're like bigatures.
Yeah, they're like bigatures. That's true. So there is they connect to another interesting mechanism in the game, because everyone gets their own player board, and you get your own faction, and you choose one of the 2 abilities for your faction, and you start with resources different from others. So the game is incredible when it comes to the lack of symmetry. You will start with a very different faction than
different abilities and so on. Yeah?
Exactly, and the person on your right and the person on your left, and so you build buildings, and you can use workers, and there are 4 types of workers in the game in different buildings on your board. But if you want to send them to the main board for some of the really big actions, you need to put them in those exosuits, in those mechanical minis, and component-wise it's really satisfying, because this is a cool looking mini, and you slide in the worker token and it fits so nicely, and when you slide it in, the only part that is visible is the part that shows the symbol of the worker. So this is a really cool
But the
part.
minis come with the expansion, yeah?
Yeah, they come with the Exosuit Commander expansion, I think that is the name. You don't get them in the base game. In the base game there is a token, a bigger token on which you place a smaller token. Both of these actually, I mean, they both have advantages. The minis are really big, they look really cool, but when they are all on the center board, they start to obscure the view a little bit. But on the other hand, they look so cool there.
Yeah.
So, but the important thing is that what you have to also balance out is that at the beginning of every turn you have to choose how many of those exosuits you will power up, and this will define how many of your workers will be able to go to that center board. Now, you want to use some of them on your own board, and you have to pay resources to power up your exosuits, and for every exosuit space that is left empty, because you have spaces on which you place the ones you power up, you get water, which is like a very universal resource you use for so many things. One of them is reactivating your workers that got tired. Like I said, there is a lot going on in this game.
It sounds definitely like there was a lot.
And it's thematic, and it's looking pretty gorgeous, and if you ever have an opportunity to try this, even if you are not a Eurogamer, because it's a Eurogame through and through, even if you're not really a Eurogamer, try it, because it's an interesting experience, and it's quite an innovative, interesting, thought-provoking game.
Okay, speaking of innovative and great looks, you must play Photosynthesis. It's one of these really catching an eye games that was premiered in Essen, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think so.
And
I think it might have been Gen Con for those of you watching us
in the US. It's been done by Blue Orange Games, I think, and it just looks amazing. You're growing a forest, and it's tri-dimensional forest, and we have 4 different colors of trees. So somewhere throughout the game you have like a board covered with those trees that have different height and different colors, and it looks so beautiful. But in the end, it's a logic game with some non-direct negative interaction, as in you have to think very carefully about what other players can do, because otherwise you might not score at all. The rules are so simple, because you have 3 heights of the trees, it's like 1, 2 and 3, and they give you 1, 2 and 3 points, and they will cast shade on 1, 2 or 3 fields, and they can throw their seeds in 1, 2 or 3 spaces away. So everything, and that's it. That's pretty much all the rules. But the thing is that at the beginning of every one of 18 or 24 turns, depending on how many turns you decide to play, 18 is absolutely enough, the sun is shining on the trees. If you're in shade, you're not getting points that allow you to develop further in the game. And in the end, you're just trying to score points, avoiding other people's shade and casting shade on them, and getting to the better spaces on the board, and it looks so beautiful. I managed to dodge this game for a long time. I really want to play it, and it does look gorgeous on the table. I have to say that my wife doesn't really like playing it, because I mean, you make one mistake or you let somebody hurt you once and you fall behind immediately. You really have to be careful throughout the whole game. That takes, I don't think it takes an hour even, but it's great, and it plays well with 4 players, with 3 players. I haven't played with 2 yet, but both with 3 and 4. With 4 is even more dense and like, you know, cutthroat, but it looks gentle and subtle, but it's a proper cutthroat logic multiplayer game.
Okay, that sounds good still.
Yeah.
I mean, the logic part, maybe not.
Oh, come on.
Okay. My last game is not something that's particularly new, but again, it took me some time to get to it, and it's called The Networks.
Oh, I love this one.
The Networks, I have played it, I have just played it, and it's been amazing. What you do in the game is you are basically a TV executive. You have 3 time slots, and you're trying to fill those 3 time slots with 3
like program lines, yeah?
Yeah, something like that. Now, the game is mostly based on cards, and it's mostly based on drafting. And what you do is you have this puzzle in front of you, because what you want to do is you want to put every every program you want to put in a time slot that's best for it, so that you get the highest viewership. And you want to add a star that would probably work best with that. And you have also advertising contracts which give you money, and if you put them in the right spot they will give you a lot of money also from turn to turn. And you need a lot of money to employ new stars and to get new shows running. It's really, I mean, I thought when I started playing, I thought money would be tighter in the game. It's not, but it's a thing you need to take a look at. So basically what you're trying to do is you're like trying to keep 4 or 5 balls in the air. That's how you feel all the time, because you know you have to make compromises, and I would say you have to make tough choices, but they are not always, you know, they are not that tough. It's more fun. Like, okay, if I put it here I'll get a bonus. The important thing is that every turn there is a draft. And like I said, the money isn't particularly tight, but
it's an open draft, isn't it?
It is an open draft. So
the cards lay out on the table, right?
Exactly. So what you have to do, what you make the decision is like, okay, I want to start a new show, so I will start by drafting this. But if I take the show, someone might take the star, and I might not have enough money to go for the show and to go for the star one after another. So maybe I could nab some ad contracts in the meantime, because this gives you money immediately when you start. But this means this is 3 turns of drafting, and other players will be drafting as well. And to add to that, there are also the network cards, which are basically special effects, and those cards can be incredibly powerful if you grab it and then if you play it at an opportune moment. The game is so much fun.
A lot of sense of humor.
Oh yes, there is the game is really, it can be hilarious when you look at, because it does not use any actual show names, it does not use any actual you know,
yeah, but you would get like Y files instead of X files.
Yeah, you'll get the references probably if you watch TV, or if you ever watch TV, you will get the references. Now the final thing I want to say is that I'm really happy. I mean, I played someone else's copy. My copy is already on the way because I love the game so much. But there is just one last thing. The game was published by Formal Ferret Games. It's a company whose name and logo I've been in love for a long time, but they mostly produced games that go from 3 players up, and the wall you see behind me is actually my wall of games. So there are some ground rules about games. I try to avoid games that go from 3 up. Finally, I have the opportunity to own a game from a company whose logo and name I'm enjoying so much.
The game is great, and I think in Europe, in German, it will be published. In Germany, it will be published by Board&Dice. The game
friends of the show,
the game is spreading, and we love it. I mean, Wajay played it lately. I played it a long time ago, and we both love it. It's fun. I think it's easy to learn, hard to master kind of game.
Yeah, probably. And it's, in a way, it's a tactical game, because it's difficult to form a strategy for the whole game. However, it's good to sometimes, like I say, take the network card and keep it until the best moment you can play it. Sometimes, in my case, it meant that I grabbed a card and then I kept it basically until the end of the game. And the thing is, everyone knows you have that card, so it's sometimes good to remember that somebody has a card that can change the game a little bit at one point. But still, the decisions you make all the time, and there is one more aspect to the game. I used to work for the Polish TV for a time, and I worked around breakfast TV, so you know, the shows that gather different things and different people in one place, and the atmosphere of the networks is so similar to what I remember from that time. The chaos you're trying to control at the same time, it's really incredible.
It is absolutely. I had similar experience, and it's so thematic, so great. Okay, I think that's pretty much all about the great games we wanted to share with you, and now we're gonna move to the Hidden Peril.
In this episode of Hidden Peril, we're going to be talking about a peril that has been hidden in plain sight.
Absolutely. Actually, for me, it's been hidden for like 20 years, or no more, 25 years.
Oh, that's an old game. That's true. That's an old game, and I think I played it a few times when I was like a kid. But
okay, name of the game is the Labyrinth. And it's not the War and Terror one.
No, it's not the GMT one. It's exactly the one you see here. It's a game you can buy in toy stores. It's a game from Ravensburger. Again, one you can buy in toy stores, and this is why it's hidden in plain sight, because, let's be honest, we gamers who play designer board games, we usually, you know, just pass these games by.
Yeah, but this one actually, when Wojciech told me, hey, I've got this old game of Labyrinth, remember it? Let's play it. I was like, no, let's play something decent. I was like, no, you're being superstitious. No. We have to play this. And we did, and oh my.
Yes. So, the game is kind of really simple. You get a little deck of cards. The cards have different symbols, different pictures. Those pictures are also on the tiles you build the labyrinth out of. And everyone starts in the corner. What you do on your turn is you slide one of the rows of the labyrinth to push out a tile and also put in a tile. And tiles have different ways they can go. Sometimes they are straight, sometimes they are a turn. So the labyrinth changes every time. Now, after you make that push, you can move your miniature, your wizard, as far as you want, as long as you move along the lines. As you can see, some of the tiles are permanently stuck to the board, and this actually, this works great because this allows you to slide the rest without a problem. So what you do, you move as far as you can without basically bumping into the wall. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to land on the card,
on the symbol that you have on a card.
Yeah, that you have on a card you're currently holding in your hand. The person who manages to get rid of all of their cards, because the moment you
because
stand
you have
on
pawns that you move with.
Yes, and the moment you stand on the symbol, you get rid of the card and you draw another one from your deck. When your deck is exhausted and you go back to your starting space, you've just won the game.
Yep, and it's really simple, and it can be played by proper gamers. I mean, we played it between the three of us, me, Błażej, and Błażej's wife, and we had so much fun. And it plays well with 2 players as well.
It plays very well with 2 players, it plays very well with 4 players.
And it plays well with kids as well.
Yeah.
So the cool thing is that you can play a gamer's game of that, you know, cutthroat, trying to block off each other and just trying to race for these goals and, you know, managing everything. Or you can just play with kids for fun who will love the aspect of the moving labyrinth and of chasing after those magical items you have, like, you know, a dragon's egg, a golden lamp, a djinn, a wand, a skull, and so on and so on. So it looks 80s or 90s,
oh, yeah,
but it gives you a feeling of a proper, fresh, good game.
Fair warning though, it can be mind-boggling sometimes when you're trying to find the best path and the best moves to create a path to the card you're holding now. So it's really incredible.
So yeah, for people who just recommended you Pulsar and Photosynthesis and Reworld and Heaven Nail and Anachrony, we have chosen for our Hidden Pearl Labyrinth by Ravensburger. And although it's a pearl hidden, as you said, in plain sight, it is a pearl.
It is. Are you strapped in?
I am.
Contest time!
Absolutely, contest time, and yet again we want to share some Dragonsgate College copies with you guys, and there is already about 250 subscribers of our channel, of this show. So the rules are very simple. You guys join our subscribers crowd, and on Christmas Day, I think, we're gonna publish the next episode, and we're gonna give you a Christmas gift. For every 150 people who are subscribing our channel on 25th of December, we're gonna give out 1 copy of Dragonsgate College. Again, just drafting a person from our subscribers list. So 1 copy is already guaranteed because we have 250. If we get to 300, there will be 2 copies. To 450, there will be 3 copies. If we cross 500, we're gonna figure out something really special.
Yeah, we're gonna figure out something very cool. So, to reiterate, if you want to get in, it's enough if you subscribe down there.
Yeah,
there is also the bell, you know, the bell, which, so you can also push the bell to get instant notifications.
Yes, so bell, subscribe, win a copy of Dragonsgate College, share this news with your friends, because the more people are in, the more copies we have to give out. And we will see you on the very morning of Christmas Day. And yeah, be there with us.
See you then.
Bye.